Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside, of course, every week is LPGA professional and Legends Tour player Cindy Miller. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Ted. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome back. We were off, of course, last week, and back this week with some great guests. Coming up here in just a few short minutes is going to be Stephanie Connelly, who is a Symetra Tour player, and Cindy, she actually, according to what we understand, is she played her last event this past week, and she's getting ready to retire at the ripe old age of 29. But she's going to be settling in a new position as the assistant women's golf coach at North Florida. So it'll be interesting to find out why she did that and what her future plans are. And then a little bit later in the show, we're going to be joined by the founder and president of Gratitude Golf, and she's also a Class A member of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professionals. Alecia Larsen is going to be joining us in the second half. But again, welcome back, Cindy, and it's good to always be talking golf with you, of course, every Tuesday morning. And I'm glad that we're back. Let me just very quickly, Cindy, I'm going to ripple right through it real fast, and then we'll get to some discussion here. For those of you tuning in, of course, every Tuesday, and unless otherwise stated, you can find us at blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf. It's also available at iTunes. If you go to itunes.com, up in the podcast section, type Women of Golf. That will take you there as well. And if you want to reach out to us, you can do so. My email is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And, of course, Cindy's is cindy@cindymillergolf.com. Lots of, golf going on. Of course, we've had some majors here recently. The PGA championship, of course, Jimmy Walker won that. That just finished up here this past weekend. And I think the ladies were playing as well, were they not?
Yes, it's the British Open.
That's right.
And Mo Martin came in second. Did you see it?
I saw a little bit of it. I didn't see the whole thing.
Yeah, Mo's been our guest. He's awesome.
Yeah, that's incredible. Lots of good stuff. It's hard to believe. I just don't know where the season's going, but, the majors are pretty much just kind of floated by. I would be remiss if I didn't mention one thing, Cindy. Here a couple of weeks ago, I was very excited to see it back there. The RBC Canadian Open for the men's, of course, I'm referring to, was at the Glen Abbey Golf Course up in Oakville, Ontario, which I visited and have played a number of times, but visited many Canadian Opens. It's a great golf course, and it was actually one of the first Jack Nicklaus designed golf courses in Canada, as I recall, and very, very tough track, and it was very interesting to see that play there. It, of course, moves around like many of the other tournaments do, and it used to be sort of a staple there for years, and for some reason they started moving it around. I was glad to see it back there. I wasn't sure if they were ever going to make it back, but they did, so it was nice to see that. But anyways, I just wanted to mention that, being that's my home neck of the woods, but very, very nice golf course, a good tournament as well. We've got a great show, as I mentioned, Cindy, this morning. Brett, of course, the communications coordinator, sent me a message yesterday about our first guest, Stephanie Connelly, who, of course, is a Symetra Tour player, and made note that she's played her last event this past week, and setting to retire from tournament play and take on a new position. We're going to talk to her a little bit about that in just a moment. But let me just tell you just a little bit about her. Stephanie, of course, started playing golf at the young age of ripe old age of 5 years old, like many of us have done. Started early in her golfing career. When she's not, when you don't find her on the golf course, you'll find her doing some other outdoor activities. She also enjoys fishing. We'll talk to her a little bit about that as well. Flying and spending, of course, time with family and friends, and likes to get involved in her community as well. Played a number of events, 17 events in 2015, and 8 cuts were made. Some of her career highlights, she played 18 events in 2014, made 5 of the cuts, one top 10 was her best finish of that year, and tied for 5th at the Eagle Classic. Recorded as an amateur, she recorded 9 top 5 finishes in the LPGA competition, and named the 2002 Junior Series Player of the Year, and 2-time Polo LPGA All-American honored mention in 2003, 2004. So lots of great accolades there, this young lady, and I think that she's ready to come on board. So Cindy, let's welcome Stephanie Connelly.
Good morning, Steph.
Good morning.
How are you? Did you notice that Cindy Miller was on here with him?
I did. Actually, I called in and I could hear you talking, and when I talked to Brett yesterday, I said, oh, yeah, I know Cindy.
Well, good to have you on the show. Congratulations on your new position.
Thank you. I'm very excited. I have 2 weeks until orientation.
Wow. Now, North Florida, that's not that's Jacksonville, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's on the east side of Jacksonville, the UNF Ospreys.
Now, Cindy, you had mentioned Stephanie last night, of course, as we were getting ready for the show, and that Cindy and I, of course, always message back and forth any notes and comments and things like that, and she was very excited to have you on. So, Cindy, you obviously know Stephanie. Have you guys actually met before, or what's sort of the backstory there?
I think we met on the Symetra tour, didn't we?
Yeah, so we actually, I think the first time I met you was we were doing clinics a couple years ago. It was maybe my second year on tour. There was a series that the tour had brought in for, at different tournament sites for one of the main sponsors, and brought Cindy in to lead us. And it was a group of players along with Cindy. And, we did a couple clinics, and then, we'd get a group of the players and kind of go off and have an afternoon of golf.
It was Hartford
good.
Insurance, yeah, and we had a contract with them to entertain and teach their customers and associates how to play golf. And so I was kind of the mom, and the girls, we would give them a clinic, and then we would teach them how to play, and we'd go play 9 holes with them. And Stephanie was one of the chosen ones that got to be part of the teaching crew, and we did that a lot. How many times did we do? I think we did like 8 or 10 a year.
I was trying to remember. I know it was quite a lot. It was probably one of the first things that really got me starting to think about, life after tour golf, that I really enjoyed doing those the clinics and then going to teach and play with the, because we had all sorts of golfers. We had, people who were avid golfers, and we had people who were brand new and, wanted to learn for business. And so it was a lot of fun. It was a very good experience, obviously learning from Cindy and from the players themselves, just new things about the game.
Yeah, it was great. So let me ask you a question. Why are you retiring now, and why do you want to be a coach?
I actually, when the coaching position, when I knew about it, when I heard about it, I actually got quite excited about, the possibility, especially with it being just on the other side of town where I live. I live in Jacksonville now. I've been here for a few years, and it just was good timing, I guess. And when I realized I was excited about the possibility, I knew that it was probably time for me to start looking at not playing as much. I kind of struggled with my game the past few years, and I took a lot of time off last fall after the season ended, actually. I wasn't playing well. I wasn't having fun. I was frustrated with the game that, I've loved for so many years. And I took about 3 months off and came back after the new year and had decided, okay, I'm going to give it a shot again, you know, see how practice goes, and if I'm having fun and, you know, I start playing okay, then I'll keep playing for the year. And I was playing much better. I was having a lot more fun. I think I just needed a break. And then, you know, my status wasn't full for the Symetra Tour this year, but I was getting into events and I was playing okay when I was playing. So I continued, and, you know, the past few weeks I really had some good success, but I still, you know, I had decided that I was going to take this coaching position, and I'm really excited about it. You know, I don't have any regrets. I'll still play, you know, in off time from the team. You know, I can still play in the summer and things like that, you know, if I like. And I just think that coaching is I don't think when I first came out of college that I would have thought or seen myself as a college coach at first, but after, you know, I've been out for a few years now, and it just seems really exciting. The program, this will only be the 5th year for the program, so it's still growing. The head coach, Joanne Berglund, she was at Montana for about 20 years, and then she came to start this program. And I really was excited when I met with her. She's very motivated. She's very competitive. She's excited about what she's doing. And it's not all about the golf, you know. It's obviously she wants to develop some great players in their games, but she also wants to help encourage these young women through their college career and developing, you know, them as people. You know, not everyone goes on to play professional golf. So hopefully if any of the young women want to, you know, that I can offer my experience. But I think I also have a lot to offer as far as just the game of golf, and having been a student athlete, I'm really looking forward to helping develop their games, as well as also, you know, hopefully mentoring them for life.
Well, good.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very. Stephanie, let me ask you just sort of a follow-up question to that, if you don't mind. You know, you mentioned, and I want to sort of frame this for the purpose of really helping some of the amateurs that are tuning into the show this morning. You know, you talked about how, you know, last year you kind of, you know, for lack of better words, the wind was taken a little bit out of your sails. You know, you weren't playing at your best, so there was a little bit of, I won't say anxiety, but struggle, if you will, and you decided to jump back in. For the amateurs that are out there that, you know, are struggling with their game, and sometimes they feel like, well, you know, it's just not worth it. I'm just not getting any better, or I'm just not playing at the best. And you emphasized the word that you know you weren't having fun. What would you advise them to do? What did you do to sort of re-energize yourself to get back out there and give it another shot? And what would you suggest for the amateurs out there that they do to sort of recharge the batteries and get out there and you know, help work with their game?
Well, I think the biggest thing is you have to understand why you're playing. I mean, if you're not having fun, and, you know, it is a game, it's no different than, you know, I don't know, going out and playing, you know, people who are on a softball league or, you know, flag football league. You're doing it for fun. You're supposed to be out there. You're outside. You're enjoying the weather. It's a challenge. But, you know, I think a lot of amateurs, especially when they play with professionals, we see it a lot as a professional in pro-am events. And
right.
People just want to be so good. And I always ask people, I say, do you practice every day? No. Do you practice multiple times a week? No. Then why do you expect to be hitting it like I do? This is my job, my full-time job. If this isn't your full-time job, you got to get your priorities a little bit in order here, you know. You're playing this to go have entertainment and to have fun. So instead of being so stressed out about it or, you know, trying to be a perfectionist, which is very hard because if you're competitive, obviously that's going to be on your mind. But the more that you can enjoy it and see it for the challenge instead of getting frustrated and, you know, discouraged by it, I think that you're better off. I think that I got into such a slump because, you know, it is my job, and I was putting so much time in and not getting the results that I wanted. And I think taking a step back and saying, okay, why am I playing? Why do I like the game? Do I want to keep doing this? I think doing those things really helped me. I just really accepted that it's a game. It's not life and death,
Right.
And the more that I freed myself up in that way, the better I started playing, the more kind of like trick shots and things like that. When I made it more fun, it just really, I started playing much better again. So it's very hard to do. It's easier
Well, you
said
took the
than
pressure
done,
off,
but...
right? You took the pressure off yourself by doing that. What would you say, Stephanie, to some of the newbies, if you will, that are coming out on tour? I mean, you obviously, I think, from what we've talked to many of the players coming out here in the Symetra Tour and that, you've obviously played for a number of years competitive golf, but they all sort of are starry-eyed. They're obviously very energetic and very excited, and they don't really know what they have, what's coming forward, if you will. What would you advise them if you were speaking with an up-and-comer that's coming out on tour, first year? What would you say to them? What would be some things that you would caution them to really focus on, and sort of if you could some parting words of wisdom to some of the newbies as you're shifting into a different phase of your career?
I think it's very different, especially girls that have come from junior golf and college and then now have turned professional and, think it's this big glamorous thing. And for some people it is, but it's not necessarily that way, especially with the Symetra Tour. You're driving yourself here, there, and everywhere, and you're your own manager and things like that. But no different than I would say for an amateur to keep having fun. I would say the same thing for, the young ladies, the rookies out there. It really, you have to pace yourself. You can over practice and play and things like that, especially when you're traveling a lot, because we do go many weeks in a row. And, just really, you don't have to change anything either. Whatever got you here, that's your game. Keep playing it and obviously try to improve on what you have, but you don't need to, find a new coach and this and that, and try to become someone else, be the best you. And also to not try, not get too involved in the distractions of, there's some business aspects as far as, this person wants me to sign contracts and that person, just go play your game. And when the time's right and you have some help, to then look into those opportunities. But as much as you can focus on the golf and enjoying it and, sightseeing and meeting new people, and we, especially with Symetra Tour, we stay in a lot of host families. The more relationships you can build, the better there for sure. But really just to keep at it, enjoy it. It's a journey. It's a long year, and take your time with it.
Very well said. Now you also do. Sorry, go, Cindy.
How many? I'm going to shift states here, if that's okay. Do you have another question about the tour?
No. Go ahead.
How many girls are on the golf team?
We're going to have 8. We have 4 freshmen this year, and I believe it's 2 seniors and 2 middleclassmen. I think it's 1 sophomore, 1 junior.
And have you met them all?
I haven't. I've only met one of the girls so far. They report back, I think it's the 21st, for a compliance meeting, so I'll meet everyone then. We have a team meeting the 22nd, and then we get rock and rolling.
And now what are the plans? What do you do with the team to help them improve? Is there any specific details? Did the coach tell you what the regimen is, or the schedule, or the workouts, or anything like that?
We'll start getting those things after I get, my orientation and everything. I know we do have a pretty good schedule. We've got 4 events this fall. I think the biggest thing, especially with having a young team, will be, getting out on the course and when you're recruiting, and this is my experience from having gone through it. Obviously, I haven't started doing that yet, but you only see so much golf, and you see scores from, afar. So a lot of it is just learning how, each player ticks, what the best part of their games are, what their struggles currently are, things like that, and then working from there. It's really, the players, the returning players, some things about them and their games. So you can kind of talk about, how their summer's gone and what they feel like they need to work on, and then get out on the course and see it firsthand. And then, I think especially something that I would have to offer is a lot of course management. Just from having played tournament golf, you really have to focus on that every week because you're playing a new course. Whereas I think when you're just at home, you can kind of get lulled into, okay, well, I know how to play this golf course. So I'm really excited to, go to the tournaments and help their performance in that aspect. And I'm also, I'm in the LPGA teaching program, so I have my level 2 seminar coming up. So I'm also learning a lot still as far as helping with instruction and, the technical aspect of the game.
Awesome. I'm going to add something. Alan and I, how we do all the personality stuff. We have created a golf assessment with this, and I would love to give you a sample of that. If you want to email me on the side or contact me on the side, CindyMillerGolf.com, and I would love to have you and the head coach take it and then maybe debrief you. It's a great icebreaker, and it helps the kids know, who they are, how they tick. Some of them are going to be risk takers. Some of them are going to, be steady and cautious, and it would be really fun. I've got a few other college teams doing it, and we've trained a few teams in the past, so it would be really fun to get your feedback if you're interested.
Cool, yeah. I'll shoot you a message.
Very good.
That'd be great.
Now, let me ask you something, Stephanie, while we're on the subject of teams and that, and I know you don't really have all of the strategy in that, but how do you find balance? Obviously, you have different, as Cindy just pointed out through these assessments, you have some of your more aggressive players, and you have sort of your steady or maybe what I would say consistent players in that. How do you foresee sort of finding balance and utilizing the best of each player? Because there's obviously going to be some different personality types and things like that. What do you visualize in your own mind based on your experiences from playing tour and watching people of various different degrees of their playability and so forth? What do you see, or what is your vision, if you will, of how you would handle different players like that?
Well, I know that coach likes to get the team together a lot, so there'll be a lot of off the golf course time and, getting to know each player and, for the team to get to know each other and really just have a good time together. I think that the more fun you can have off the golf course, the better you're going to play for each other on the course. As far as the golf is concerned, the way college golf works is you play with a couple, you're not playing just with your team, so you get paired up with.
Right.
Typically, it's 2 other teams. You're playing threesomes, and so you just have an order of 1 through 5, and the ones play together from the 3 schools. And so I think as far as getting, each player is going to have their own game plan, and I think that getting the best out of someone who is more aggressive, you just have to get them to be smart about it. To know when it's a good opportunity to take the risk and when it's not worth the risk, and then getting the consistent kind of, say, middle of the green player to get a little more aggressive with their targets and things like that at the right time. So it's just, it's a little bit of give and take, and you can certainly, they can work very well together, but you don't necessarily have to change the person to play, okay, well, you need to be more like this one or that one. No, just play your way, but do it efficiently.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, you have situations too, Stephanie, where because this is in a team environment, golf traditionally, of course, is categorized as more of an individual sport. But obviously, in cases like this and things like the Ryder Cup and the Solheim Cup, where you're playing as a team, you obviously want to, capitalize on different things. But you also don't want players to feel if they're not pulling their weight. How do you handle that aspect of it? Obviously, there's going to be situations where some players maybe feel like they're letting the team down. What kind of a pep talk are you going to give them, if you will, to sort of bring them up and regroup, if you will?
I think that when you've got it's a tough thing, especially when you're dealing with females. We're much more emotional, I would say, on a regular basis, and we're going to take it pretty personal when we're not playing well or when we don't feel like we're, participating as much as we can. I think that just encouraging that player to really just take a step back and say, okay, I'm struggling right now, but how can I get myself through this? How can I push through this for the team? Just kind of helping them figure out, okay, you don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to go out there and shoot 62 the next 4 rounds, but just, get yourself in the hole. If you're hitting it all over the place, find a way to get in the fairway, find a way to get it on the green and make some pars, I think just the encouragement and the understanding that you don't have to be perfect to be able to help, and making little strides at a time to, get back to that solid game, I think is probably what you've got to do. I've been there when when I've been struggling and you get pretty down, but I think that, in my experience, just taking a breath and saying, okay, I'm not having a good day, I'm not having a good week, whatever it is, the luck isn't on my side, right now. So I'm just going to find a way to manage. And I think that's really all you can do at times is just say, okay, it's just not working for you at the moment. Don't get too down about it. Just push through it and it'll work in the long run. Right.
Well, and I think something too that you can take away from, and I know watching many Solheim Cups over the years, as an example, one thing that was very impressive, and I know that they do this in the Ryder Cup, but I think that the ladies do a much better job of it than the men do. But on the sidelines, of course, the other players that maybe weren't playing at that particular time or maybe had finished their competition for the day were there rooting on the others and supportive. Even the players that weren't playing at their best were there supporting the other players that were still out on the course. So that's obviously a way too that they can, still be engaged, even if maybe their matches or their rounds weren't as good that particular day or even that week. You still have an opportunity to be supportive of your team, correct?
Absolutely. With college, typically we're going to play a lot of shotgun, so it's going to be a little bit more on the coaches. But in those times when you do have tee times and, you are, the first tee times out, you need to be either walking back, to see the last couple groups or, being there on 18, encouraging those kind of things for sure. Even, whether someone's playing well or they're playing terrible, just the support is a good reminder of, okay, I am part of this team, I'm here for a reason, let me get it done.
Exactly. Well said. Stephanie, it sounds like you've got a great opportunity here at North Florida, and you're going to be starting here in a couple of weeks. You said you'll be getting ready to get fired up for a new season, and we want to wish you all the best. And I know you said that from time to time you're going to try and maybe still play on your off time as well. So I hope that you'll stay competitive that way. But congratulations on the new position. Happy birthday! I noticed that it was your birthday as well here just recently, and also congratulations.
Yes,
you're getting married. I understand in December. Is that correct?
I am. Yep, getting married in
What
December.
The heck? You didn't tell us that.
Yeah, it's December 10th. I'm really excited. We got a dog a couple months ago, Miss Anna here. She's a chocolate lab, and she is precious. So I'm excited to be home a little bit more with her and my fiance. So yeah, 29's been good so far.
Life
Turned
is
29 on Friday.
honey.
I know. I love it.
You're becoming a grown-up.
Yeah.
I am. It's scary.
Well, we would like to have you back on after you get to coach for a couple months. Is that okay? Will you come back and do this again?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
We can definitely work that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Stephanie, again, congratulations on your upcoming nuptials in a few months' time. It's coming quick. So, and obviously a belated happy birthday and best of luck on the new position. And as Cindy said, yes, we would love to have you come back here maybe in a few months after you've had your feet wet a little bit in the new job and let us know how things are going out.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
Honey. Have
Thank
a great
you.
Day.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Very positive young lady, and I know that she's going to be a great asset to the North Florida golf team, and is going to be a great asset to her partner on the coaching staff as well. And I can understand, Cindy, why you were happy to work with her over the years and doing some teaching things together and that. And I think that assessment you talked about, you and Alan have developed, I think would be a great asset as well for their team. So I hope she's able to take you up on that.
Yeah, and if anyone else is interested, email me, Cindy@CindyMillerGolf.com, because it really reveals who you are and how you learn and how you would play and whether or not you're a risk taker and finding the balance between going for it and being steady and cautious.
Exactly. And it is good. So go to Cindy@CindyMillerGolf.com, email her, and she will be more than happy to send out the assessment to you. And I agree. I think it's a great thing for all people really to take. I think it does open up some well-valued insight as to who you are, and will certainly definitely in the long run help you with your golf game and life as well. Our next guest is ready here, so we'll bring her on here in just a second, but let me just read out a couple of things here. Our very special guest coming up now is Alecia Larsen. She's the founder and president of Gratitude Golf. She's also a Class A member of the LPGA Teaching and Club Professionals. And let me just tell you just a little bit about a little more background on her. The vision for Gratitude Golf and her coaching and golf instruction is to equip golfers to tap into their full potential by discovering their individual gifts with specific tools to enhance their progress. She encourages them to stay focused on positive achievements and become aware of and work through any obstacles that may be keeping them from reaching their goals. Great note there. On the lesson tee, there is an important emphasis on the fundamentals of the game and specific mechanics with an essential combination of the mental approach to their golf game and to life. She coaches everybody from beginners through intermediate advanced players and currently has men and women as well as junior golfers as some of her students, and many, many other accolades to follow. Let's welcome, Cindy, our very special guest, Alecia Larsen.
Good morning, Alecia. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for asking me to be here. I'm really honored to be here, Cindy. Thank you.
Cindy, you go ahead and I'll let you start things off.
Tell us exactly what you do. I know, you want to help people tap into their potential, but give us the lowdown. I know you just finished a book, and give us all the scoop. Did you hear me?
No, she got dropped off. I guess she must have hit something. We'll wait for a second, and when she calls back in, we'll bring her on. Our apologies for that. I'm not sure what happened. She may have hit something, and
yeah, she'll be back.
But
sure.
yeah, here she is right now. Here she is. Okay, go ahead, Cindy, and ask
I'm
that
here.
again.
I'm sorry.
No,
yeah,
that's okay.
Sorry, that's okay. No worries. We do that all the time. So tell us exactly how you help people reach their potential and find their unique gifts.
Well, it really starts with just getting to know the person on the lesson tee and kind of how they process information and, you know, where they are with their game. And then as I get to know them as a player and we start to talk about self-talk and what they may believe that they can or cannot do, we start to tap into those kind of resources relative to what they already came to me with. And a lot of times what they have in their personal life as far as belief systems or things that they I can't reach this goal or whatever it is in whatever area of their life, it will probably bleed off into their golf game. And so we talk about that. And, you know, I introduce self-talk to them and the power of positive self-talk, or on the other flip side of that, you know, the power of the negative self-talk that they might have come to me with, and we start to tap into that.
Let me ask you, Alecia, because you raise a very interesting point there with the statement you just made. You know, a lot of amateurs, particularly, I'm sure even on some level, some of the professionals do this from time to time, but particularly the amateur golfers, and I'm sure, Alecia, you see this all the time in your teaching practice. But a lot of amateurs, of course, if they're struggling, particularly if they're struggling a lot with their game, carry that baggage, if you will, with them into the next lesson or into the next round. They're already thinking about all of the bad mistakes they've made, maybe the last 2 or 3 rounds, or even the last practice session. What are some of the things that you do to with the self-taught to help sort of change that mindset?
Well, over the years, this has been a really, really interesting discovery for me because of the fact that I've found out that there's a lot of skeletons in the closet, and those quote skeletons are actually haunting them, you know, like the perfectionist side of them, and they're from their past. But the masses of the golfers actually come to the lesson tee, and I may start talking about, you know, golf is not a game of perfect or whatever, and then all of a sudden, you know, somebody might even get very emotional about it. I found out that these emotions are right under the surface, and then I find out it's not so much about the golf lesson that I'm giving them at the moment. It's about something deeper, which then goes into life, of something even as much as and profound as, this is what my father told me all my life, and she's in her 60s, and she's dealing with something that her father's passed away, and it's still haunting her, but it's stopping her. It literally is stopping her from reaching her full potential in golf because of the fact that it's something that she thinks she has to achieve, like perfectionism, for instance, and, you know, I can't hurt, there's people behind me, and they're rushing me, and so I began to understand that, you know, this information that I'm actually, it's unfolding in front of me on the lesson tee. The original name of my book, I wanted to be that it's much more than your swing, because it truly is, and I am a huge advocate of getting instruction. Believe me, it's my profession and my livelihood. But I can tell you that a lot of these people are not addressing the issues that are causing them to, their obstacles that are causing them to not reach their full potential. And we need to, as professionals, we have to be able to help these people enjoy this game. And enjoyment is, if they go out and they're like not liking who they play with, and there's interference, and, you know, you have the potential minus the interference equals their performance. And I have that in my book many times. I learned that a long time ago, early in my career, and I have used it a lot. And these people have to understand what the interference is, and it could be a number of things, but mostly it is the negative self-talk. So you have to unfold that for them, and they realize. One woman said the other day to me on the lesson tee, she was literally tears streaming down her face, and said to me, I just realized that I'm nice to everybody else but me. Everybody at work thinks I'm such a nice person, and I'm so nice to them, and you just unfolded and just right before her, just asking her some questions about, you know, that shot, or she's very quick to judge a bad shot and very slow to affirm a good one. And so I said to them, you know, it's just they're so prone to quick judgment. And I said, look, you have to stop when you do something well, and that's what you've been trying to achieve. Stop and savor that a little bit. So it's right there. And I believe golf professionals really have to tap in a little bit more to that, because I've given lessons where we've hit 5 golf balls, but it's been one of the greatest lessons they've had. You know, handful of golf balls anyway, and just they have to understand and discover that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, you know, you raise an interesting theory. You know, a lot of people are very hard on themselves. They're very forgiving and very accommodating for others, as you just pointed out in your example. But when it comes to themselves, they're very difficult. And again, it stems through their experiences, their life experiences. You know, this woman that you were mentioning, you know, that was 60 years old. I mean, she obviously had some things with her father at some point. And a lot of people might be thinking, well, what does that have to do with their golf game? Well, it has to do really, as we've said many, many times in the program, golf mimics life in many, many ways, with the challenges and the pitfalls that we discover both on and off the golf course. And if you're bringing that anxiety and that baggage onto the golf course, it's very difficult to have fun, number one, but it's also very difficult to overcome some of the challenges you're going to face in the golf course, because you're not really coming with a clear thought or a clear conscience. And that's something that you're getting more and more into, as I understand, with your lesson tee. Is that correct?
Exactly. And, you know, the people that, you know, you've heard that old life saying that, you know, the quality of your life is determined by, you know, you're going to have adversity, and how do you deal with it is really how it's going to end up the quality of it. So having positive self-talk statements and knowing that we can scientifically rewire our brain to be able to think differently when we have those adverse conditions, we know we're going to face adversity on the golf course. So people have to have a coping mechanism. They have to be able to, in the middle of getting a quadruple bogey or for some of these amateurs, they're double digits on these holes, and they just have to be able to have a coping mechanism that teaches them a strategy, that teaches them to deal with that moment right in that moment and change their thoughts so that it doesn't become disaster, so they can stay more in the present moment and forget about the shots they just had and try to not, you know, think about, oh my gosh. I mean, I had one junior golfer that thought if she had a really good drive on number one on the first hole, if she started out well in her round, typically she would end. She really believed it. This was like not even typically. I shouldn't even say that word. She believed that her score was going to be bad at the end. But if she started out bad, she felt like her round was going to end well. And I said, where did that start? She said, well, I said, maybe we don't know where it started. She goes, yeah, it started when I learned a board game when I was about 7. And every time I started to win early, I always lost. You know, if I started to do well and I looked like I was going to win, I lost. And every time I started out slow, I won. So she took that belief pattern and implemented it and just applied it to her golf game. And these girls that were in the room were sitting there going, wow, I mean, Alicia's trying to teach you how to hit a good drive, and we all want a good drive on number one tee box. And she's actually saying, I want to hit a bad one, because if I hit a bad drive and I start out the first 3 holes bad, my round's going to be good. It's like, wow. You just have to kind of understand some of these things. And so, yes, I believe the masses of golfers, which are, you know, hundreds of thousands and millions, hopefully, we know that we want to keep them in there and playing this game. But if they have a bad experience with golf and then they believe that, I tried it once and it's no fun and I'm going to go to something else, you know, it could be because they just got frustrated or they had a bad experience, and we can reframe that, and we can scientifically, it's proven that we can, you know, through the self-talk that I've been introduced to by Dr. Shad Helmstetter, you know, and the research that he's studied it's awesome that we can actually tell these people that they can listen to these positive self-talk statements to help them cope while they're on the golf course. But then the cool part about it is it actually helps them cope while they're in their life. They can take those statements and help them for their entire lifetime. So you can literally change a person's life just by being a golf student, just from the very beginning.
Right.
So, Alecia, give us an example of a belief pattern and what you can do to change someone's coping mechanism.
Well, I mean, right, like say somebody's in the middle of a round and they hit a bad shot. And, you know, like I had a young junior golfer the other day that her sister said, hey, that was a really good shot. And she said, no, it wasn't. Well, in fact, if you were out on the golf course and you took that ball, because I always ask my students, if I take the ball and I could put it right where I want it in the perfect spot, because I always say point A is where your ball is, point B is where you want ball to go. If I could run that out there and say that's a perfect spot or a playable, acceptable spot to be in, where would that be? So when she hits this golf ball, and her mother then disclosed that many times that's happened to her, where she's so quick to critically judge that drive, and if you put it out there, it might be in the right rough. It's playable. So she instantly decided that she was going to say, no, it wasn't a good shot. She was talking to herself, grumbling underneath, and, a lot of this goes internal. So you have to stop that right away and say how the coping mechanism is. You can just look at that and go, I don't know where that's at yet, and I can completely reframe that and say, I hit that solidly. I'm just going to go up and see where that's at, and then play it from there, because that's all we can do is literally then the most important shot is the next one. So we all know that. So we're just going to go up to the next one and see where it's at. Instead of instantly beating yourself up for thinking you hit a poor shot and slam your club and put it into the dry, in your bag, and then just stomp up there and talk badly all the way to yourself, all the way up to the ball. That's just producing cortisol, which is really, gives you brain fog, and it's just negative stuff that you don't even need to introduce. So coping mechanism wise, as soon as you hit a shot that might be less than desirable, you kind of look at it and go, okay, that is what it is, and I'm just going to go up there and hit the next one and just see what the next one brings me. So you can literally reframe something and make it positive instead of negative.
Perfect.
Wow. How do you broach with some, because obviously everybody's personalities are different, and you get some people that maybe are a little reluctant to. I mean, you're obviously you're not opening up into a full counseling session with people, but at the same time you have to get to the root cause in order to be able to help them. How do you broach that? Because some people might be a little apprehensive that you're getting maybe a little too personal and or maybe uncomfortable in certain areas. How do you broach that as a professional without overstepping a little bit? How do you handle that situation when you're dealing with somebody and you recognize that there's more than just a bad golf swing here to deal with? How do you do that without either offending them perhaps or maybe getting too personal and making them feel uncomfortable? How do you handle that situation?
Well, I remember when Dr. Shad was training us, and he said he's given thousands of presentations and radio shows, and he said that not everybody is ready for the message you're going to be sending, and so everybody needs it. We all know that. So I know that there's timing is obviously one of my chapter titles, and timing is everything in your life. And so if you're not ready for the message, there's no judgment cast on that person. They're just saying they might not be ready to quite hear that message, and they'll stick around because I think that you help them to kind of reflect and ponder on that thought of, I wonder, maybe they wouldn't want to admit it right away. But I've never, in my opinion, I've never had anybody say, that's, I'm offended by what you said there, because it's so parallel to life that the realization and the epiphany they have with the idea that, wow, I just, like that lady, I just realized that I'm so negative to myself, and I'm not my own best friend. And, I simply ask people, if I talk to you the way you talk to you, would you allow me to be your friend? And they're like, no way. They know that. So it's like, but yeah, some people are ready and then some people are maybe not ready at the moment, but they usually circle around and we'll come back to it when, a little bit more in depth. But I kind of know when they're ready and when they're not, and I've been doing it enough now, so I kind of, I'll if they really want the information and they start to, be inquisitive about it, then we get a little more in depth with it. So thus I wrote, the book is really why I wanted to kind of send a message and say, look, this is a tool that I never had as a competitive golfer. I didn't have this, so that's why I'm so passionate about it, because this would have been great for me to be able to say, I had coaching and traveled around the country and got lessons from some of the greatest teachers around the entire country, but it was about my own demons that I faced when I went home, and how I was so hard on myself on the golf course that really caused me my problems. I had, I was told I had a beautiful golf swing and all that stuff, and I practiced relentlessly and tirelessly for hours at a time and days and months and years, and then I'd go out there and just not reach my goals even close to what I was wanting to do. So I feel like this is something that I could give the amateur golfers, or even professional golfers, hopefully that to understand. And I think professional golfers actually have access to the sports psychologists, and they probably tap into this a little bit more. But I'm talking about the masses that don't have to pay thousands of dollars, because we as golf professionals need to engage people to continue to have fun and enjoy this game, and that's I think this is a really great tool to introduce to the world, the golfing world.
Yeah, well said, and you're exactly right, Alecia. There's the masses, many of the amateur golfers out there that continue to struggle. Don't know where to turn, don't know what to do. They and many have actually even shied away from the game because they're not enjoying it. And you're right. The professionals obviously have a wealth of avenues that they can turn to get that information and that knowledge, and that's not always something that's available, or up until now anyways, hasn't been available to the masses. What's the actual name, what's the title of the book, and where can people that are interested get a copy of it?
The title of the book is The Missing Link. It's the power of positive self-talk in the mind game of golf. And they can get it, they could actually call a member of my publishing team at this phone number if they want to order it today, and he would give them the information, and he'd be happy to take their call and take down their information and send them a copy of it. And that phone number is 850-912-4212, and his name is Levi, and he would be happy to handle your call and take care of everything you need to get this book into the hands of any golfer yourself, anybody that's interested in golf, or I've actually said in the beginning of the book that this is a book actually for golfers and non-golfers alike, because it's so much of a parallel about life, and each chapter actually has two meanings behind it. So if you talk about change or timing or perseverance or balance, impact, I talk about it relative to golf, and then I talk about it relative to life. So it's really a great book, just relating to both of those features. And then just getting back to a question that you had relative to saying how do you help people, or how do you reframe somebody's coping mechanism. I had a little 10-year-old girl on the lesson tee the other day, and she said she was struggling a little bit, and she was getting really tense, when she went out and played, and she would do well on the lesson tee and then go out and play with Dad and Grandpa and just say, it's just out there, it's just so different. And I said, how is it different? She goes, well, I get a lot of tension, and my swing gets really fast, and I just play a lot worse. And I said, so let me hear, did I hear you correctly in saying that you weren't relaxed out there? And she said, yeah. So I asked her then on the lesson tee to maybe why don't we swing on the lesson tee relaxed, and then try to take that, just take that when you go play with Dad today. She was going out that afternoon. She texted me later and said that she had so much fun playing relaxed, and we reframed her. Instead of saying, when you go out to play, don't play with any tension, the same thing is play with, go play and have fun with golf relaxed. And so it's the same thing you're saying, but one's from a negative paradigm and one's from a positive paradigm. So you can turn the words around anytime you'd like and make it, more of a positive statement versus a negative one. And she went out and had a great time and played one of the best rounds she's had just casually with her father, but that was a big stepping stone for her. So this book helps you to do that, and then also the audio. The audio, listening to the audio with repetition is the scientific feature behind it, where you can order the audios from the book. You can order audios from my website, which is www.gratitudegolf.com, and you can order self-talk products there. And that listening to those audio statements over and over, and my kids that are in my academy, it's mandatory that they listen to these self-talk audio statements, and it'll rewire your brain to think more positively.
Right. And, something I wanted to mention, our earlier guest, Stephanie Connelly from Symetra Tour, mentioned that a lot of times when she was playing in a Pro-Am, that a lot of the amateurs were very hard on themselves. They couldn't understand why they weren't playing as well. And she raised an interesting point that a lot of amateurs, I don't think, sort of put together, and that is, she asked them a series of questions, and they were as follows. How often do you play, and how many times, this week do you play, or how much do you practice? And they couldn't sort of correlate between the fact that she's out there every day playing and practicing. They're not, and they don't understand why they can't play as well. A lot of amateurs, I think, would you agree, fall into that trap? They're not out there, but they don't understand why they can't hit a shot, straight down the middle of the fairway, or they can't get out of the bunker as easily as you, Cindy, or I could. They just don't understand that. So that's part of the the retraining process as well, and the thought process that you're trying to correlate with them as well, is making them be realistic and understand that you're only as good as what you put into it. Correct?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And, that falls under two of my chapter titles, that it would relate to, and that is what are your expectations that are realistic and within reason? And then also your awareness. I mean, there's body awareness and there's mental awareness. And people are just, if they practice negatively, they're going to go out and play negatively. So if you practice positively while you're on the lesson tee or just in your practice session, the people will tell me, well, I have a great golf swing on the practice range, and then when I go out there, it's terrible. But their expectations are way too high. So I do, even in the book, I mentioned something to the fact that, I said to one gentleman, he works at a bank, and I go, okay, if you wanted to teach me your job, if I came 1 hour a week and I didn't do anything in between from now until when I see you a week from now, how are my skills going to be? And he's like, you're not going to make any progress. It'll take me forever to teach you how to do that. And I said, exactly. So you have to have those expectations. And so I do challenge my students to say, how much your progress is directly proportionate to how much you practice and play. And then you can break it even further down and say, when you practice, are you practicing with purpose, or are you just going through the motions? Because somebody could tell me they could practice, 15, 20 hours that week, but how much purpose was behind it, So it really does matter, and their expectations and their awareness of that are key, because if their expectations are too high and they haven't practiced at all, they can't expect that from themselves. Otherwise, they'll beat that. That leads right into negative self-talk. That's exactly where they go. They don't know any other place to go except there. So they just beat themselves up, and then they find themselves in that really downward spiral, and it's really hard to get out of. But now, again, through this great feature of having, the audios to be able to say, yeah, if I can listen to that, I literally have my girls taking self-talk statements out with them, and when they're faced and challenged with adversity, they're listening to that in their head. They're taking positive statements that will help them cope, and then they have better expectations.
Right, and Cindy also raised an interesting, made an interesting comment as well as she was talking with Stephanie about her assessment process that her and her husband Alan do with their students. And Cindy, you can maybe elaborate a little bit on how that helps you lay out the groundwork with your teaching by doing that assessment first and getting to understand the type of people that you're dealing with, correct?
Well, you need to find out, are you a risk taker? Do you take unnecessary risks, or do you play too cautiously? I mean, Alan and I are dead opposites, and we've both played the tour. So I would tend to fire at pins and bury it in a bunker and make double and then get mad, and Alan would tend to not take any risks. And so you have to figure that out. But it's what you said at the beginning is you have to find out who's standing on the lesson tee right before you, and that's the number one thing. Who is this person that I'm going to help right now? I have to ask you a question. Who is publishing your book for you? Because it sounds like they're doing a great job.
Well, I'm actually the Gratitude Golf Publishing. My team is I would have to say I have to give them the accolades for that. So it's been really I've actually jokingly said I feel like I'm giving birth to my fourth child, so it's really fun. But it's been a great talk about a labor of love, because I've been really blessed with having a great team, and Dr. Shad helping me, and Levi, and those people in place are and all the CSTs, the certified trainers that I got trained with, supporting me and cheering me on, because they know the importance. They're out in the world changing the world in their areas, and not necessarily just with golf, but I've been more of the sports kind of tag, the sports person that, with the golf and every other sport I was in. So it was kind of fun to be able to do that. But they've all just been a great team for me to be able to, have this come to fruition. So I'm very honored to have Gratitude Golf Publishing doing that.
That's awesome.
Very good.
That's awesome. So are you self-publishing the book?
Yes.
Cool. Awesome.
Yes. Yep.
Very, very good. Well, Alecia, unfortunately, we're run out of time, but we would love to have you come back on the show again. I think, there's certainly plenty of room to have certainly a further and more in-depth discussion about how the self-talk can really help a lot of the golfers. Because I think this is really where a lot of amateurs struggle. It's not so much with the golf swing and that sort of thing. I think too many people focus on the mechanics of the golf swing and not some of the other areas that need focusing on in trying to improve. And they're spending, the ones that do spend hours, like you said, spend hours on the lesson tee, are not practicing sometimes with purpose. They're just out there hitting golf balls and raking them over. And you can try to explain to them 1,000 times how it would be more effective if they did it this way. But getting to some of the root causes and issues behind the eyes, if you will, I think is much more. So we would love to have you come back on at a later date, and maybe we can get into some further discussion about some of the different techniques that you've learned and that sort of thing, if you'd be interested.
Oh, I absolutely would be. And I'm actually going and traveling and doing like full long day retreats for college, universities, and men's and women's golf teams, and that's out there. And it's gonna catch on, because I think that we're discovering that it is much more than your swing, and these people are spending thousands and thousands of dollars listening to golf pros and getting information, which is valuable. But they keep coming back to me. The redundancy of me continually telling them the same thing over and over, and they haven't really mastered it. And then couple that with they're still practicing negatively with negative self-talk. We got to get to the point of why they're stuck there. I feel guilty continually having them pay for lessons and lessons and lessons when I know what the issue is. So yes, that would be I'd love to do that, because the bottom line, I'll finish with this. The bottom line is, if I had two players and I made their swings mechanically, they were perfect. Let's just say hypothetically they were perfect, and player A is listening to they're completely same swings, different people, but player A is listening to self-talk and player B is not. I'm going to put my money on A, simply because they're going to have a stronger mental game, and they're going to outperform B just because of their mind game and their toughness, their mental toughness. So I'm hoping that everybody will, call and get this book. And again, if you wouldn't mind, I can give you the number one more time if I have time. Yes, please. Levi is standing by. He'll take all the calls, and give him a call, and he'll be able to take everything as far as your information to get the book in your hands. And the number again is 850-912-4212, and he'd be happy to help you out. So
thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'd love to come back and talk again with you folks.
We will definitely set that up. Alecia, thank you very much for taking the time and talking with us today. And it's very, very interesting. And I'm 100% total agreement with you. I think that this is an area that really needs to be focused on, not just within the golf industry, but even outside the industry as well. And I think we're starting to see more and more of it happening. And congratulations on your book, and much continued success. And Cindy and I will reach out to you here shortly and arrange a time to have you come back down in the future.
That would be awesome. I appreciate the opportunity today, pardon me, and look forward to, expounding on this, because it is something that the world needs, and we're really excited about it. So we're changing lives every day, and this is the start of it. So we're excited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alecia. You have a great day, and keep up the great work.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, that was our special guest, Alecia Larsen. Of course, we ran over time by a little bit, but so we'll wrap things up here. Cindy, as always, thank you very much for being part of the program. I truly appreciate that very much, and you do a great job and helping get some good guests on here, and I appreciate that as well. And we would like to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in each and every week. And as I said, sometimes we have to take a little break here and there for one reason or another, but we hope you'll keep coming back. And we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to Cindy at cindymillergolf.com or me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. We would love to hear some thoughts and comments about the show if you're so inclined. And if there's something that we maybe haven't covered on the show and you'd like for us to do so, please reach out to us and let us know, and we'll do our best to work that in the mix. But we will see you next week here on the Women of Golf. Cindy, have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.